Welcome to WVTC TV Network, capturing family moments in real time, bringing families closer together from the comforts of home. We are unleashing something different to the world. Start your subscription today for the low price of $4.99 per month or $55 annually. Go to www.wvtctvnetwork.com to sign up today. WVTC TV Network is streaming live on 8 different platforms. You can easily download the WVTC TV Network app on the Apple Store, Play Store, Roku, Fire TV, and more. Here at WVTC TV, we have access to movies that everyone can enjoy, including independent films, Sons of a Preacher and a Good Thing, Treasures of Life, the epic drama, The Passion of the Christ, and the box office hit Madagascar Escape to Africa. Remember, go to www.wvtctvnetwork.com and sign up today.
Well, hello there, fam. Welcome to You Plant, We Water. Here on this show, we focus on helping you to create and establish the thriving relationship that you deserve by combining faith, mental health, and what we know about relationship satisfaction and stability. I am your co-host, Dr. Toy Flowers, licensed professional counselor and professor of counseling. And my distinguished co-host is Trisha Flowers, minister and lifestyle coach. Yes. And so we are so grateful to have you back with us once again. If you have been watching, you know, we have covered I'm going to use a $10 word when I could use a 5-cent one, a gamut of topics, right? We've talked about love languages, finances. I can't even think. There's so many things we've covered. My brain is going blank right now. But we've talked about a lot. So I would encourage you to visit our Facebook page, You Plant, We Water, to review some of those things, because I am literally sharing with you the exact same things I share with my clients who are coming to me for therapy. And then we have Trisha, who is giving you those wonderful insights as a minister and as a life coach, and all of that at no cost to you. So please take advantage. There's so many resources there that could help. Today, we are excited to talk to you about how to build a spiritual and physical connection in your relationship to deepen intimacy. All right, let me start by defining intimacy. It's the easiest, most easy to remember way that I ever heard it. I think I learned this at school or whatever, but intimacy really just means into me, see, right? Like, I'm going to let you see into me. That is what intimacy is. It's a level of closeness where you're letting down your guard and trying to truly let someone see into you, and vice versa, you would see into them. So how do we do that? Through strengthening our spiritual connection and then our physical connection, right? Like, by physical connection, I mean here in the earthly realm. That's all we mean. We're not going there.
Not yet. No.
No. Okay. So, spiritual connection. We were talking about this as we do. We usually kiki and just talk about the topics and then think about how we want to bring it to our audience. But excuse me, everyone.
Feels like someone doesn't want this message to go out, but we're going to get it out to you because you need it.
Yes, we will. But let's start with the spiritual connection. So when it comes to intimacy, all of the parts of ourself and allowing someone to connect with us in that way is how we build intimacy. So in the world of counseling, we have this wheel where we put all the different aspects of a person. So your spirituality, your education, your recreation, your all of these things make up who you are. So our faith and spirituality are huge. What I have found through personal research, personal experience, and even my work with clients is to connect with someone on a spiritual level is probably one of the most intimate things you can do. And as a result, a lot of people do not do it. But there are many ways that you can begin to bring that into your couple relationship. And we're just going to talk a little bit about them. And then we're going to move on to the physical realm. Any thoughts before we start, or do you want to dive right in?
Just remember that you know some of these things, but they're just reminders, right? So a lot of the things that we're saying, you kind of know, but you may not have thought of it in that way. You just might have been like, oh, well, that's what we do in relationships. But we're just trying to make sure that you are aware of what those things looks like. So when she was speaking of spiritual intimacy, one of the things that came to my mind was, finding a church home. When you find your mate or you get married, or if you guys are dating, you want to have a place that's your church home that you both feel comfortable, because I might like praise and worship and somebody else may be really into the word. Well, we're going to need both of those in our attempt to find our church home. If the praise and worship is terrible for me, then I'm probably not going to enjoy it, even if the word was good, because that's how I feel like, okay, I'm getting connected to God. So that's something that I think is very important. What are your thoughts?
I would agree. I love that you mentioned start by finding a church home where you both can be fed and grow. Real life experience early on in my younger years, I did that. And we had to kiss a lot of frogs before we found the prince, right? Meaning we went to a lot of churches and experienced it. It took like a year of visiting different churches before we found one that was a fit for the two of us. And it was just like you said, like I had come from a really big church and that was a no. And they had come from a church. It wasn't small, but I was used to a teaching style. We'll just say that. And that didn't exist. So finding a church home that you both can be fed, because worshiping together, right? So receiving the same word on a weekly basis, receiving that same food, that manna, right? Receiving the same, even though it'll speak to you differently because the word is sharp and pierces to the very heart of a man. But you're at least getting that same information, and you'll begin to build what's important for sustaining couple relationships, which is a community. Once you find that church home together, look for couples who've been married a long time. Our research shows that one way to build and sustain your own relationship is to find a couple mentor, meaning someone who's been there, done that, and is further along on the journey than you are. That's all a mentor is. It doesn't mean they've got it all figured out. It just means on that path, they're a couple steps ahead of you. So finding a couple that could serve as a mentor is great. And pray about that for sure, which we're getting into another one. But pray about that for sure, because all that glitters isn't gold. And just because it might look good on the outside doesn't mean that is who God has called as mentors for you and your spouse.
And I would say, even with that, make sure that they're fruit, right? So that you are able to see their fruit. Don't just go off of we've been married for 40 years. That could have been a terrible marriage, and it may not have been sustained in spirituality, and which is what we are striving to do, is get connected to the Most High God and to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. So you want to make sure that they're showing the fruits of that marriage.
Very well said. I couldn't agree with you more. So excellent point there. Because I do know unfortunately, I know several couples have been married 40, 50 plus years, but they're not happy. And so, you definitely want to use the discernment to make sure it aligns with what you want to see for you and your partner. So we've got finding a church home together. Another way to connect spiritually is to pray together, right? I think we've heard the cliche, the family that prays together stays together. But the reason it's so popular and said is because it is true, right? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and all of those things. So prayer and praying together is something that will definitely create intimacy, and it's a glue that can hold you together. When we're talking about connecting, that's why we need it. These are the things that bond you together so that when things of the world try to pull you apart, what kind of glue do you have? I'm laughing because it reminded me. Remember this lady with the gorilla glue?
Oh, yes. And that's the type of relationship that prayer will give you. And I don't know if you know about this or not, but that lady put real gorilla glue on her hair, and she had to get that medically
that part's
done to her to remove it. So we want you guys to be, to be stuck like that, where the word of God is so strong in your life that you cannot be broken, because like she said, there are so many things that come against marriage and healthy relationships. And so prayer does get you to a point where you guys can sustain, and even in your differences, because you're going to have differences, you guys can go in your prayer closets or together and be able to hear from God and get that clarity for what it is that you need.
Absolutely. And remember, because we're just two or more are gathered, God is there, right? So that's a golden nugget. You want to share another one?
Another one for spirituality that I think is good is just making sure you guys are listening to music that uplifts you. Sometimes secular music is not good for marriage. It's telling you all kinds of different things that aren't healthy, like, well, you can find somebody like that. No, you want to have things that are good and in accordance to what you want, right? So I have to say, sometimes I like things that are a little non-holy, but those are not things that I would want in my relationship. I don't want to hear, even Beyonce sometimes can, you just want to make sure that you guys are giving yourself the music that is uplifting and building. Clearly, I told you guys earlier where one person is really into praise and worship. That's me. So yes.
Yes, we
Gorilla
do.
Glue love. See that on a shirt coming to you soon.
That's right. You can get that shirt on you when we want to get that Gorilla Glue love.
Absolutely.
No, yeah, that would Patricia saying, I'm just gonna be honest and transparent. I love me some trap music. I can't even call myself Sophista Ratchet. So I need to work on that because you name it, I like it.
It's okay to like it, but sometimes those messages are not about being a healthy married couple. Some out there saying be single and it's okay and you don't need anybody. Yeah. And those same people have people.
That's true.
Right. So we want to be mindful of that, because you're singing this and putting this into your spirit about how you're so, independent, you're single, you're this, you're that. And that's not what you want. So if that's what you're listening to, that can be counterproductive, but you can listen to it. Just know that you want to make sure you're doing the right things as well, feeding that relationship.
Yes. So we've got, I'm going to say being mindful of what you consume. We've got going to church together. We've got pray together. And of course, actually reading the Bible together, rightly dividing the word of truth together will create a level of connection and intimacy. You're allowing each other to see into each other. You can even talk about what are you receiving, because the truth is the word is living, right? It's alive. And so let's just take it back. Even written things, text that is not alive, when two people read it, they can walk away with two totally different understandings of it, right? So the living word is amazing. And when you read it together, you can talk about what are you receiving? What are you getting from it, and share and edify one another? Because as we've stated before, iron sharpens iron, right? So that is another way to strengthen and work on your spiritual connection with your partner.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Any other things specific to spiritual? I'm trying to remember what other pieces we talked about. Yes, absolutely. Be on one accord. That is so true. And I think that's almost impossible to do if you aren't engaging in some of these other practices, right? If you're not praying together, if you're not, even if you're not doing it together, if you're not in your word individually or praying individually, then it's almost like uh weakness to the gorilla glue. It's like the opposite of the gorilla glue. So love that.
Yeah, and I think that just making sure that you put God first
Yes.
in your relationship, all of those things are putting God first. But just remembering that this is ordained by Him, right? So making sure you remember that and keeping that at the forefront of everything that you do, I think that will make you be very successful in whatever you're up against, because you are going to be up against things. So having that mindset is definitely going to be a good thing.
Well said, right? So seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all else shall be added unto you is definitely applicable as it relates to building that spiritual connection and deepening your intimacy, which means your ability to see into one another. So we'll bounce back and forth because we may come back to some other ways. And like Trisha said at the beginning, these are probably things that you know already. And the point of counseling is really we serve as a mirror, right? We're never going to tell you something that you don't already know on some level, but we're going to reflect back to you what is already there so that you can receive it and connect it and begin to apply it. All right. So if this is sounding very familiar, that is probably why. If you're doing this already, let us know. Put it in the comments. If you have a suggestion that we haven't thought of, let us know. Put it in the comments. Okay, so ways to do the same thing, but in this earthly realm. How do you strengthen your connection just in the earthly realm, right? We're going to talk specifically about something that is near and dear to my heart because I dedicated over a year of my life researching it. And that is how play, right? So adult play actually helps to strengthen couple relationships. And what the research knows, and me as your resident couple play expert, it acts as a buffer against stressors. It allows for creative problem solving. It sidesteps resistance. It brings about joy. And I don't remember if I ever said this on this show or not, but when you are laughing, your brain produces the same chemicals used in chemotherapy. It's called interleukin 2. So it actually has healing properties. Play, laughter, right? Experiencing joy will heal your physical body. So that is why play is important in a couple relationship. What do we mean by play? What does it look like? We spent some time thinking of lots of examples, and there's so many fun examples. Good evening. So find time to play together. So what's an example? You want to?
So, if you don't know already, I am a skater. And so, one of the things that me and my partner do is we skate. And I actually found my partner skating. And that's our play. I didn't know that that was our play because I wasn't, so I didn't know. And my sister told me that. And I said, what? And so, even in the midst of a lot of stress, me and him both would be like, well, let's just go skating. Mm-hmm. And for those, and it sounds a little strange, but for those 4 hours of going around in that circle, on a wheel. It brings joy. It helps us to feel connected, and we're laughing and we're bonding, like you said. And for those moments that we're out there, we forgot. And usually, I'll be honest with you, we're no longer even mad after we've come back. It's like, whatever, good evening, whatever we were thinking about, it's not that important. But sometimes in the heat of the moment, you're like, we're definitely gonna like go at it. But like after a good skate, getting those good endorphins, we're good.
Yeah, absolutely. I more recently was introduced to the skating world, and I have called it a fountain of youth because what you'll find if you ever travel, you will find people who are 90 years old still skating. Everybody is doing it. They're having stress relief, so it's definitely a form of adult play. Other things, and we saw the greatest couple. I encourage you to follow them, the Matthews, dance. Right. So they dance together. And by dance, I mean like what I would call stepping, but they are not from Chicago. So they call it something else. But they said that I think they've been together 20 years. And they said that each dance feels like the first dance because it's something that they do together that they enjoy. I meant to say before we start talking about play, which I know, especially in the Black community, we say a lot of time, I don't got time for play. Make time for play. It'll save your life. It'll save your relationship. Hide your husband, hide your kids. No, but what do we mean by play? Play, so we're going to give more examples, but adult play or any kind of play is anything that you do for enjoyment that does not provide any type of monetary compensation. Okay. So golfing together, that could be play. Now, if you are a professional golfer, it's no longer play because it's now your job. But it still could be something you love that you get paid for. So like, that's another example. What are there's so many things you could do.
And I love that she said that because when we were having our talk before and I was saying like, okay, some couples love TikTok. She's like, now are they getting paid for that? And then I'm like, I don't know. And so that was the clarity that I needed because sometimes we do think even in regular relationships, well, we work together. Well, that's not necessarily a fun activity to do because it can be stressful and it can do other things that are creating not a playful experience.
Absolutely.
If you ever had a mate that you guys are doing things and it's not fun, like I really want us to hurry up and get done with this project.
Absolutely. What great point, because working together, it can be something that strengthens your connection. It might not. But when we're talking about play, the reason we're specifically talking about it is because there are two sides to your brain, the right side and the left side. The left side is all logic, right? And so that is where we typically come from if we're working together and all of that. Those benefits I told you about healing and sidestepping resistance, those are all connected with the right side of the brain, which is creative. And when you are immersed in play, you can do something you can get into a state which is called flow, which means you no longer even know what time it is, which is what happens 4 hours in the skating ring, going around in a circle, right? You're just enjoying just the pure benefit of whatever it is. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's see, we have a comment. What would you say to a couple if your partner says, I don't like what you like? That's such a great question. How would you all find a common activity that you both enjoy? Thank you, Tanisha. That is a great question. And you're not going to like everything that each other likes. And I think your second question is the key. Finding that one thing that overlaps. So if you think of two different circles, you know how they had those circles and then they overlap and there's that little space in the middle. Look for that little space in the middle that is the things that you both enjoy. And don't be afraid to try new things. So it could be a matter of, once a month, we're going to try something totally new that neither one of us has tried before. We're going to take a cooking class. We're going to try axe throwing. Because that might be how you find your shared play.
And I would even say if your partner doesn't like what you're doing, if you can sometimes just go, you might realize that you do like it. Now, initially, you might have thought, I don't like this. The sound of going around in a circle doesn't sound good. But once you get there, you may realize like, hey, so just give it a shot. Doesn't mean that it's going to work. You still may not like it. But like she said, if you find other activities, but sometimes we just are against something and we haven't even given it a shot to see if we like it.
Yeah, I would say definitely give it a try. And if it turns out, it's okay. You might not like it, but like, I'm trying to think of something I love play, so I couldn't think of nothing. Just that quick, I was like, what's something I don't like? Well, I'll try it. I was going to say football, but no, I like to play football as long as it ain't tackle.
And no, you know what? Like, so for real, honestly, one of the things that I didn't like was like sports. But I realized it's not that I don't like sports. What I really like is when it's in the playoffs. I'm like a fair weather fan. I'm all the way in. So I would have said, oh, no, I don't do that. But like now I'm like, wait a minute. I really do. I like hockey, but it has to be during the playoffs. That's when I'm all the way focused in there. Yeah. So yes, that's something that's absolute true. You may not you may not have to watch all the season. That may just not be your thing. But with me, like I'm all the way in playoff season.
Yeah. So some other types of things that could be play, so we can give you ideas. Um, motorcycles, right? So there's the whole Harley community, that same couple, they do that. Back to Trisha's point about TikToks, if you're like doing the dance trends together and things like that. Thrifting, so that's like going to garage sales or what are they called? Oh, the thrift stores. Looking for things. That's also play.
We got some other ones: bowling, fishing, running. There's so many things. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes we just automatically say I don't like running, so let me just say that. If we are going on a running date, that's going to be a no for me. But I would try it. I would not say I don't want to do it, because maybe when I'm running with my mate, this is a fun running. He's chasing me. I don't know.
Maybe y'all racing. So
maybe we are. I am competitive. So that might make it different. And I think Tanisha said it's the excitement. Yeah. So if something's exciting, it'll get me in on it. And I might have told you before, I never do that. Bike riding is a good one.
Bike riding is excellent. And you're spot on about the excitement. There's so many things we haven't even named yet. Like the list goes on and on. We talked about festivals. This is something Trisha and her partner like to do. They like to go to festivals. Some people like cosplay, where you go to those conventions and you dress up. The sky is limited, but the excitement is the key. And I'm going to tell you why, right? There is something that happens in any long-term relationship that is called, another $10 word, hedonic adaptation. What that means is we get bored with the same person, right? So in the beginning, it's so exciting. And I want you to think of like a graph that's moving up, right? You're just meeting them, all these new experiences you have together. You're like, oh my gosh, they're great. They're great. Then eventually you're going to create what's called your baseline, your norm. And that's not a bad thing. That's a wonderful thing, but it just means there's not as many spikes in excitement. By introducing play, what you're doing is creating new news, new norms, and creating those spikes of excitement, right? Especially as you try new things, like testing out, I don't know, something you haven't done before, which I can't think
like
of.
Hiking,
Hiking, yes, RVing, what other things? Just
now let me ask you this. Would like traveling be a form of play, or is that not a form of play?
It could be. I think the traveling in and of itself, yeah, I think it could be play, as long I just think it's
have an activity,
broad thing, because the travel might be your play, right? So you don't have to have a set activity, but absolutely. I had to think about it myself.
And that's where, so that was where our back conversation was, because I'm like, hey, so you get getting paid? Like, no, that is your field or your profession. So that's not going to be one.
And I also encourage you to pick a profession that you love. So there's nothing wrong with taking something that you would do for free and then figuring out how to get paid for it. But once you get paid for it, you're no longer playing, you're working. But that's exactly how I fell into counseling. Our father passed suddenly many years ago. Oh, to repeat the word again. Yes, hedonic. Like if you've ever heard of hedonism, there's some type of
there's a word.
So hedonic adaptation. And it's very similar to sensory adaptation, right? What happens with sensory adaptation is like, I'm wearing this watch because I've been wearing it so long, I can no longer feel it, right? It's still there, but I don't feel it. But as soon as I take it off and put it back on, I'm aware of it again. Hedonic adaptation is the same thing, because hedonism just means pleasure. And or the pursuit of pleasure. So it's the same thing. The more the baseline is still there, I still enjoy you. You're still all of the wonderful things you were when I first met you. But because we're at the baseline, it's not as thrilling and exciting. So the more I can introduce new things. So yeah, but the sky's the limit. But we do encourage you, seriously, if I were a medical doctor and I got to give you a prescription, I would prescribe play to every couple. Find a chance to engage in play. It doesn't have to be a long time. You might only have 10 minutes. Play a board game, watch funny videos, something, and see what the benefits are.
I love that. And like she said, a board game, Scrabble, all of that is good things that you can incorporate. So you don't, Because a lot of times we think, oh, it's going to cost money. It can be something free too.
Yes.
It doesn't have to cost money. You have to be creative, but it doesn't have to cost money. So just get out and explore these new activities that you may have tried or maybe haven't tried with your mate, and just it'll be fun.
That's the key. Think fun, right? And fun can be free. We were talked about dancing to start. You could dance in your living room, right? So sing together, whatever you want to do. Be like the Partridge Family, make a band. But have fun. Enjoy your partner. That is all we have for you today. Thank you once again for joining us on You Plant, We Water.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, and iNetworks Communication Station.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio